Silven here. I'm going to be making a new guide today. It's going to be about the Burst Guardian, and I think this is probably the last one I'm going to do about Burst, unless there's a new build coming out. So this one, I'm just going to put in all the new, you know, like updates, just to make sure that everyone's on the same page. Like, there hasn't been that many changes, but I'm making this video deliberately so that everyone knows it's completely up to date. So if you already know how to play one, then there's not really much point watching this video. But yeah, I'm gonna have it's gonna be on my guide. It will have the builds that are on this video, and I think they're already up. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to show how to build the Guardian. So I've left mine on a DPS one, so I'm going to be changing everything so I can show you everything. So first off, what we're going to do is, well, the amulet is going to be a Berserker amulet, and you're going to have a Berserker jewel. The reason for this is going to do as much damage as possible. Your survivability is not entwined too much with your amulet. So, sorry, I just got a bit of a could outrun a centaur. So, you can actually run Berserker, and you pretty much have to, because the reason you want to run a Burst Guardian is to deal with things like, you know how you had the Phantasm Mesmers, and then your Spirit Rangers, and pretty much any Mesmer or, you know, the Spirit Rangers, Point Assault, bursting down Necros. All of them you have to have enough damage. If you're not running Zerker, you won't be able to one-shot Phantasms and Spirits, and that's really important. So when people start running Knights and things like that, you don't actually end up with enough damage to counter what you're trying to counter with this build. When you're running a Knights one, it's more of like trying to keep more health for the sustain, but you end up with not enough damage, and that's why I'm running Zerkers. Okay, next off you're going to be running 6 Scholar Runes. So the Scholar Runes are the highest damage you can get with this build. There's not really anything else. Some people like running Fury, but I think it's Rage, which gives you the Fury. But the Fury uptime on that is just not high enough, and it gets stripped quite often, so we're going to just rather have the Scholar Runes so we maintain that damage and get that 10% above 90% health. And the weapons that we're going to run are, there's 2 different weapon sets. So the first one, the one that is really strong right now, is Set to Focus as your second set. And your first set will be Mace Torch. So Mace and Torch. Okay, but the thing is, there's 2 ways to run this. So you can actually run Sword Torch and not Mace Torch. Now this is a much easier way to learn how to play, because the Sword 3 will always hit. So that, not always hit, sorry. When you use it, it's always going to go off. It's always going to do the skill in that area. So the Mace one is, your enemy has to activate it. So what you do is when someone else is attacking, you activate it, and it can hit much higher, and it's much more accurate once it's activated. But if they don't activate it, then it doesn't do any damage. So it's your choice entirely, and obviously you have the teleport on the sword, which is really strong, and the extremely high DPS on the sword auto attack. But remember, the Mace auto attack can crit over 3k on the last hit, and all of for the sword, the last 3 hit, like it goes 1, 2, and it does a 3 hit. That last hit is actually pretty hard to always hit. Sometimes people will dodge out of it. Sometimes it will just hit one of those 3 for some reason, because you miss slightly. So that last Mace hit is very easy to hit. So it usually has a higher chance of actually doing that damage against other players. Okay, so we have. So I'll just set up with the sword, even though I personally always run Mace, because the Mace is just so much stronger and so more. It makes the whole burst AoE and much more compact. But for the newer players, or even the players who aren't that confident with the Mace, I'm going to use the sword. So you're going to have 2 fire sigils, 1 on each set. These fire sigils there's an important thing about fire sigils when compared to force. So when I did the, I can't show you here because the stream's fixed on Guild Wars, but I have an Excel sheet, and on my Excel sheet I can determine what sigils are going to be stronger. Like, I made an Excel sheet that does that, and the fire sigil is stronger. Some people would prefer force because they'd like an energy sigil or something like that. And we're going to have force as well, and I'll say why force is not as good in a sec. The element of, it's not just surprise, it's just unexpected. You know, when something is unexpected. So when you hit someone and you hit that fire proc, they're sitting there and they're looking at their health. They know what it's going to go down to on a regular hit. But then you add in an extra 1.1k and suddenly it's screwed up for them. You crit and a 1.1k on top of that. That's a really big hit. So for example, when your mace crits for 3.4 and then you get a 1.1 fire proc, that's 4.5k. It doesn't look like it, but that's what it is. So it's and it doesn't always happen, which means it's hard to predict. And although that can backfire, as in like you can't force it to happen, it's usually a benefit because it usually catches them off guard. So the fire is my favorite and is pretty much the best. I can't really think of anything that would be better. So fire on your sword and sword or mace and your scepter, and then you're gonna have force on the torch, and you're gonna have bloodlust on the focus. So the reason we do that, force on the torch, we need that 5% extra damage for Zealot's Flame. So Zealot's Flame is going to hit really, really hard, and your whole burst is going to be while you're on the torch set, so you might as well have that 5% damage for everything. So that's 5% extra damage for Shield of Wrath as well, because you swap sets when you do your burst.
Swift and steady.
Excuse me. And then you're going to have Bloodlust on your focus, because you already have enough crit. You have way more than enough crit. You have 40% chance, plus 15% from right hand strength. Oh, I think this is because I haven't done the traits yet. Okay, I'll do the traits and then I'll go through it, but I think it's 48% plus 15. It's high. It's a very high crit chance. So you don't actually need the crit chance. Obviously, heal power is not really going to do anything. And it's the last one. Well, those are the three. Yeah. So, the condition obviously has no place. The conditions are irrelevant in this build. Okay. So the next thing we're going to do, work on these traits, and so we're going to put in 0, 30, 30, and I'm putting in the wrong traits here because I'm just putting in the 5, 5. So 30, 30, 5, 5. And 0 in Zeal. Zeal is pretty much a useless line. There's only a few builds that use it. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to have right hand strength. And then powerful blades if you're using the sword, and if you're not using the sword, you're going to use radiant fire. So that's the torch recharges faster. But because we're using the sword, we're going to put that in. And then inner fire, so you gain fury when you get set on fire. And remember, in this meta, and in every single meta since the start of Guild Wars, even in the beta, this trait has been extremely useful because of the Bunker Guardian, and there was the Ellies, and the Trap Rangers, and normal Rangers, and now Necros. Everyone has burning, so every single team will be able to burn you constantly. Then you're going to have meditations that are instant, and meditations recharge faster. So some people use purity here instead of one of these two abilities, but the thing is, it's so important because you're going to be running triple meditation, which is, you can have all 3 meditations. I mean, there's merciful, but we don't use that because it's the burst build. So the reason we have contemplation is because a condition stack will be able to shut you down really fast. For example, when I play Necro and the enemy is playing Stand Your Ground and not Contemplation of Purity, which is an optional skill, if they don't bring Contemplation, I can nuke them quickly with conditions, and they're pretty much useless. They can't really do anything. They can't burst because they have too much pressure on them, they have weakness, you know, things like that. Okay, so we've done Scholar Runes, Fire, Force, and Bloodlust, Zerka, and then we got 0, 30, 30, 5, 5. Now the 5, 5 is because you'll have permanent Vigor in this build. Because you'll crit so often, you'll pretty much always have Vigor, which is extremely, extremely important. Because that is how you're going to survive. Your dodge rolls are how you're going to survive. Now, obviously Shelter is the only heal you can really use in PvP. You can use Resolve if you're playing just Guardian versus Guardian. If you're in a 1v1 and it's not like an actual game, you're just 1v1ing against a friend and it's Guardian versus Guardian. Resolve is the best. But unless you're versing a burst Guardian, then obviously Shelter is the best. And Renewed Focus, there's no option here. There's only Renewed Focus because you're so squishy. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to set up the first spike. Sorry. Okay, so the first spike. Now, what you're trying to do, this is if you're doing it alone, so you won't have an ally here to help you out. So you click your target. What you usually do is you pressure them down. You lower their health with Orb of Wrath and Smite, alright? And then obviously you could do Ray of Judgment as well. But the other thing is, if you're like coming into a battle, or if you have them with the element of surprise, don't obviously whittle them down because you'll lose the surprise and the certainty of your Zealot's defense hitting. Okay, so first off, we're going to use Shield of Wrath, because in 3 seconds this is going to explode and do a massive amount of damage. Then we have the Chains of Light, which will keep them there in position to not give off the burst. If they don't see you, you don't have to use Chains of Light. But usually you'll want to use it so that you make sure you hit your Zealot's defense. Okay, then you want to get your Virtue of Justice, because this gives you Might, 3 stacks of Might, and the Burning. So you do the Burning damage and the 3 stacks of Might will give you the extra damage. And then you want to switch weapons, teleport in with Judge's Intervention, or you got to wait the seconds before Shield of Wrath. So Shield of Wrath has got to hit at the same time using Zealot's Defense and the Smite condition. Now there's 2 ways to do this. You can either use your Zealot's Fire, and as your Zealot's Fire is traveling there, then you teleport in and Zealot's Defense, or afterwards use Zealot's Fire when they're trying to run away. So I'll do those 2 now. I think 45 seconds on Shield of Wrath, yeah, so I'll only be able to show it once. Okay, so Shield of Wrath goes up, snare him, use that, and then you go in and you hit everything. Now that didn't hit that much because it didn't crit everything, but that's okay. So what I did there was, I'll just say it again, Shield of Wrath, and I put up my Virtue of Justice, Chains of Light them, and then I switch weapons, and then I use Zealot's Flame, and as Zealot's Flame's traveling there, I use Judge's Intervention, Smite condition, and Zealot's Defense all at the same time. Now obviously I didn't time that perfectly because I was just trying to explain it. You can time it much better. And the next one is with the Mace. Now the advantage with the Mace is that when you use it, it will all hit at the exact same time. So within 1 second, if you crit everything and their armor isn't that high, you can hit 22k. So that's with the Mace. Okay, so same thing. Set it up.
I feel good.
And then see how you get your proc. So in that way, like if you got